Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Zino from TyrAds, that is TYRAds.com. And Zino and his company have 8+ years of experience and a proven track record of building and growing 8-figure businesses across the globe. We might talk today about app marketing, about advertising in apps, about privacy and data. But either way, it's always fun to talk about mobile apps. There's always so many fun ideas and niches. So Zino, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, glad to be talking to you as well, man.
Yeah. So just to make sure we understand about the problem that your company solves, what do you do? It looks like you grow mobile apps, but what does that mean exactly? What's your ideal client? What's the starting point? And then what does that company look like after you and your team have provided your service?
Yeah, cool. So let me explain real quick what we do. So very simply said, when mobile app companies develop their first apps and they want to get their user base, usually they start struggling with getting that through that first hurdle of getting users and actually growing their user base, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what our company does is after mobile marketers start promoting their apps a little bit on Facebook and AdWords and start getting a good hang of like what the perfect user looks like, and they're looking to scale from 100K users to about 10 million to more, that's where our company comes in, and we're able to provide that scale on all different fronts outside of Google, Facebook, Twitter, and these areas. So usually our clients start with about 100K downloads. They start at that point, and the moment they want to grow to a higher amount, we help them scale from 100K all the way up to 10 million plus in a short amount of time, as quickly as they need to get there.
Well, exciting. And you hear about these apps like Angry Birds or like Candy Crush or Words with Friends, and the story that they seem to like to tell every time is that the app was just like such a lightning in a bottle, and it was so popular, and it just grew to millions of users on its own. So how often does that actually happen? Do these mobile apps blow up on their own a lot, or do they need a lot of this marketing juice to get there?
So you always need some marketing juice to get there. So also companies like this need some marketing juice to get there. But sometimes they already have a very good product that sells itself. So sometimes you have an excellent product that has a very good viral effect. But that is really the exception of the case, right? So with cases like this, when you're promoting or you have an app like this, you have a lot of word of mouth that comes into play, or that they have an invite function that gets a lot of users to invite to their user base there. So it really depends on the app itself, how well that will go, but that is really happens very limited. And as there are more apps out there, they start the uniqueness starts going away a little bit. So it's not as easy as it was in the past, because in the past, every app was new and everybody was, oh, I want to try the newest thing. And then it was very viral very quickly. But as there's much more apps growing into the market right now, it becomes increasingly more difficult to do that. And that's what we see with a lot of app developers that come out in the market and try to promote their apps, is that they'll actually see that the moment they try that and try to get that same effect, they fail with that very quickly, and that's when they start getting this gray zone, like, okay, what do I actually have to do?
That makes a lot of sense, that there's maybe like those foundational aspects, like the invite function, or you hear about good copywriting or phrasing and things like the app description and the app itself. So it makes sense that this extra work needs to be done in order to go from the 100K users to the multiple millions of users. And then so the next thing that comes to mind is, do you only focus, or do you mostly focus on games? Because when you think about like an app that gets used by millions of people, like games is kind of what goes to mind for me, because I think like if there's like a business or a productivity tool, that it feels like that's less of an audience. So am I wrong there, that it's all games or mostly games, or do you grow apps of all types?
Well, we grow apps of all types, but the way of promotion is very different. So a gaming app promotes at very different venues and different areas than other types of apps. But we have experience with promoting all kinds of different apps. So we've promoted gaming apps, we've promoted crypto apps, finance apps, tools, VPNs. All of them are different in what type of user they're looking for. And this is something that you, if you're very effective at marketing, you need to understand that you're when you're showing ads, you're not just showing ads on the platform. No, you need to be showing those ads to a specific audience. That audience need to be the audience that actually want to use a product like yours. If you do that effectively, you're actually going to grow your user base very effectively. So what our company does is we find that right audience for you, and we're able to pinpoint that right audience for every specific type of app. And if that's a gaming app, or if that's a finance app, or if that's a utilities app, it doesn't matter. We'll find that exact audience that is actually interested in that specific product or service.
And what you said right there, it sounds simple, but that's one of like the biggest like marketing and business concepts right there, right? That like you can't really create a demand. You need to get in front of that starving crowd and figure out like who wants to use this app, and then go and advertise to that group of people. And it might be kind of tempting to say like, oh, everyone wants my app, but then you and your company say, no, there's a specific like interest group and location and age and all those things that we want to specifically target.
Yeah, it's the same in sales, really. You know, if you're doing sales with anybody, and you're selling to someone that actually is looking for a product that you want, it's much easier to do that sales. And then in sales, you also have something that's called qualifying. You qualify your leads and qualify if they're actually good for your company or are able to buy at that moment. It's the same thing for marketing. You know, if you target the right people that are actually looking for that service, it's going to be much easier. Now, yeah, it sounds very easy, but finding those people, that's going to be very difficult. Why is Facebook so effective? Because they're able to pinpoint exactly the audience that's going to be good for you using lookalike audiences and stuff like that. But when you're trying to scale that and trying to make that bigger, that's where you're going to get into issues, because not everybody has that capability that Facebook has or AdWords has or anything in that region.
And then so how do you narrow down that audience to filter out the people that you don't want? Is that a secret? Is that a matter of you and your team's experience? Do you look at existing ads and kind of try to clone what's already working? What's the method to the madness?
So the method of the madness, and good question, is basically there's two ways of promotion, and one way of promoting is to find where your audience is located, right? So let's say you are promoting a gaming app, right? If you're going to be promoting your gaming app in a gaming community, right, you're very similar already in the same type of audience group that you're looking to promote that. So placement is one way of promoting very effectively. So if you want to promote a gaming app, promote at a community of gaming apps. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all those people in that gaming community are actually going to like your type of game. So there is still going to be some mismatch. Now here, the second part comes into play, and that is your data that you have. So for example, let's take Facebook, right? If you promote on Facebook and you promote and advertise on Facebook first, their effectiveness is not so great until you activate a lookalike audience. And a lookalike audience is what they specifically do is they just take that data and they find users that are similar to that user base that you already have. And that's exactly what you also would want to do in terms of our industry, is you want to be able to get your own first party data. And that first party data is the user base that actually likes your game and is very active within that game. And what we do is we find that user base through data targeting. And we do that not through Facebook or AdWords, but we use that through either programmatic buying means or through direct partnerships that we have with our suppliers.
And right there, that concept of the lookalike ad, I remember when Facebook came out with that term, and I was thinking like, man, they labeled this thing that has been like on all of our minds for all these years. Like they didn't invent lookalike, but they invented that. That's the first I saw of that term, right? Of that, well, you have this group of people that's already using your app, and who knows why it is that group and that age, they just happen to find you. And you think like, okay, well, my strategy could be to like find some new crowd, but you're saying that like kind of the low hanging fruit, the more like logical approach is to say, let me look at this group of people that I have and what do they all have in common, and what did I do correctly in getting them to use this app, and then just go and find more people that somehow fit that type, and not always knowing logically like why is it that location, why is it that age, why is it those interests, but just kind of duplicating those sorts of people that that already found you. And that's a kind of, again, we're having all these really simple, down to earth kind of like marketing fundamental conversations here. And so I'm sure that with all these apps that you've dealt with, you've had some kind of fun ones. So does any particular app that your company's worked on come to mind as far as like, it was a cool idea, it was a lot of fun to grow it, it was just like a nice adventure? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different apps that are really cool and fun to launch. Like one we're working with a client right now is Vuga. They have June's Journey. June's Journey is basically this app where you have to you basically go on a journey with them regarding the gameplay for with June's Journey. Basically, you jump into this adventure for this lady called June, and it's very wildly popular with a lot of women. So it was very interesting because they only were able to target specific age groups and women demographics. So they were looking only for women between age 34 and older. And it was a very particular niche in gaming that we needed to figure out. And that was very interesting for us to figure out, okay, how are we going to find that specific demographic group and grow that out? And now if you look at June's Journey, it's a very large title and has a huge amount of downloads and has been growing very, very rapidly. And it was very fun to grow that out together with them and build that product together with them and see how we can get more users for them.
And so is there anything that you think you and your company do that's unique, that stands out? Because you help all these apps, and you're not the only mobile app company out there, but I'm sure there's things that are unique to you. So why should someone choose you to grow their app versus some other company?
So the main thing really here is that when you're promoting any app, it's the use of data is very, very important. And as we're going into an area where data is going to become increasingly more difficult to get and access, what our company focuses on is enabling first-party data also in a privacy-centric methodology, meaning that we use data that doesn't use personal identifiable information to target users. And that is very, very difficult to do. And that's something that we're building out and increasingly getting better at with our programmatic marketing teams, etc. So if you want to be able to prepare for the future, 1 to 2 years from now, that when the Google Advertise ID is going to disappear and Google Privacy Sandbox is going to come in, and with the IDFA being depreciated, and you want to maximize the results of your campaigns with limited amount of data, then something like that will be very good for us to help you out with.
And you hear about this a lot. Like every few years, it seems like, whether it's Apple, Google, whoever, it seems like there's like this push towards privacy, and it seems like Apple and Google, they're totally fine storing all the data, but then as far as the information they give to developers or what they allow the developers to do, it just seems like there's every few years, just from the outside looking in, there's always some kind of another blow as far as what the app creators can do. So it's good that you and your company kind of like stay on track of what new innovations there need to be in order to stay alive. And I'm sure that you've seen many mistakes, right? You've seen many other apps kind of just make stupid decision after stupid decision. So is there anything that really drives you crazy that you see happening in your industry? Because you always hear about these things like fake downloads, or they don't keep their app up to date. So is there anything that just drives you bonkers as far as what you see in your industry?
Right now, what I would say is looking at where the industry is going and how everything's going to be privacy centric. I think if you don't prepare for it right now as an app company and it's your core business, I think that's really one of the biggest mistakes that you could make. Because if you don't prepare for it right now and you don't focus on building your own first party data so that you can actually target that and work actively within that in the next 2 years, right? You're going to have a very, very difficult time 2 years from now. So I think that's one of the things that drives me crazy, is that I think if you don't properly prepare right now and get ahead of the curve, you're going to have a very difficult time. And yeah, that's something that I always recommend to any of my clients, that you want to be able to prepare your own first party data and be able to use that data in such a way that you can actually target that.
So when you say first party data, do you mean things like building your own list?
Yeah, well, building your own list, but also in, if you have your own list, there's some specific metrics right now that are coming out, or specific features that are coming out, right? For example, one is from the trade desk. It's called Unified 2.0. It's a privacy-centric hashed ID that will allow you to target users, specific users, or make lookalike users based on their personal identifying information like email or phone number, but you do not actually share their email or phone number. You just match it with a publisher based on a hashed 64-bit ID. And that 64-bit ID, if that's matched between the source where you're promoting it and where your data, you can actually target specific users, or you can make lookalike users based on that data. Working on models like this, or working on setups like this, will be able to allow you to still be very effective with your marketing when these changes come into play.
Well, good to know that that's coming, and what a time to be alive to be able to tap into some of this stuff. And so, since we're speaking a little bit here about the future, is there anything that's fun and exciting that's upcoming with apps in general, or with your company, that you feel like sharing?
Yeah, so right now we're actually launching our owned and operated inventory. So we're launching our own apps as well to be able to facilitate also our own first party data that we're getting from our own user base, so that we can actually target our own users for our clients' apps. And also make lookalike audiences for that. So we're doing as we preach, right? We're building our own first party data so that we can actually utilize that first party data to target effectively for other apps that we're looking to promote or anything like that. And that's something that I'm very looking forward to see and building out for the next 2 years to really grow that out.
Well, cool. Yeah, you'd hope that you'd practice what you preach, right? If you find someone who's a course creator, you hope that they have a course. If they teach writing a book, you hope that they have a book, etc. And so, are you able to share like what these apps are, what they'll do?
Yeah, so it's a rewards app. So basically what the app will do is it will reward users to do certain actions or play certain games or achieve certain levels. And it's going to be mainly focused towards gaming, and also some other products that want to achieve certain achievements from users. So we always discuss with our clients like, hey, are you okay with us promoting on this app? And what we do at the same time is we get we ask the user to give us their usage data. So the apps that they use, et cetera, and we reward them for that. And that allows us to really make profiles from these users, and then we can make lookalike audiences right away when we start a campaign. So we don't actually have to go through a learning phase. We can just take the user data that we already have. We can make a lookalike audience from that, and then use that right away when we start a marketing campaigns for our clients to effectively market their apps as well. So that's really exciting, because usually when you go through any campaign and you start any campaign, you have to go through this learning phase to promote your app. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate that learning phase with our own first party data based on the usage data that we have available.
Well, cool. And so, speaking of apps that are cool and fun, have you ever come across an app, not necessarily like one of your clients, but have you found an app that just like blew your mind? Because like I'm thinking about like I found an app that like helps you have better sleep, or like a game where you're able to like control these like circles, and it's based on Google Maps in your neighborhood, so you end up like fighting people for like real world territory. And it just, of all the apps that you've seen and tried and used, is there any app that just like really blew you away, that was just so cool with an idea?
Yeah, well, there's one app that I absolutely love, and that's very funny, but it's called App Block. that app blocker basically blocks a lot of apps so that I can focus more. So it's a very cool app because I can block certain apps, and I can set up profiles like how long can I use certain apps, and how often can I use it, et cetera, et cetera. And that gives me a little bit of discipline of what type of apps that I use. So I absolutely love that app. I've been using it for what, 2 years now or something like that. It's free, but I know they're selling my data, but but I still love it. I mind that.
And yeah, and you and I know that, I mean, there's all kinds of our data being sold. Like there was something in the news like 5 years ago where someone took like a brand new Android phone and just like left it on airplane mode, and then went around town, and then like, you know, looked at the data, and it's stored so much. So we know that the data is being sold in some way. There's kind of nowhere around it. But as long as it makes you more productive, or it gets the job done, then who cares, right?
Yeah, I think that's a personal choice, right? If the choice is given to consumers, then it's fine that some consumers will say, okay, I'm fine with giving that data away for getting something free in return, right? But I think the choice needs to be very clear for the consumer and for the user itself. If that choice is clear and you can make a very clear choice, which sometimes right now I have to agree that it's not very clear that your data is being sold, then I think it's not a good thing. But if it's a choice, then I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, that's interesting to navigate. That you're totally allowed to opt out of Google or Facebook. It's free. It's amazing that it's free. But yeah, it would be good if it was more clear about what your data was that they had, and like their privacy. And it's always cool how the more recent years you can download all the data that they have on you. But it's like when it's not out in the open, you tend to like think the worst, right? You think, oh my, they have even more data on me than I realized. But like, as long as it's up front, then like you said, you can kind of make that choice of do I use this or not? I'm okay with my data being used in this way. It's interesting to think about. And so as far as the sales pitch for TyrAds, where do we go? And I know you mentioned earlier about like the right type of company and app to use your services, but who is the ideal fit to go right now and check out tyrads.com? And what's the motivation for them to take action right now?
All right, cool. So the perfect client for us are clients that have already tried some Facebook and AdWords campaigns, but are hitting their scale, they're hitting their limit of not being able to grow more, and they need to grow a lot more to achieve their growth targets that they want to achieve. And if they're looking to go beyond that limit that they have from those walled gardens, then come to a company like us, and we can help you grow from whatever user base you need to grow to as quickly as you need to. And that can be starts to usually around 100K downloads. That's when it becomes interesting for us to help you out, and then all the way up to 10 million to a plus downloads. That's where really we can deliver the best value for our clients.
Well, fantastic. So if that describes you exactly, if you're an app company out there and you've been trying your hardest, but you've been kind of getting those diminishing returns lately from Facebook ads and Google ads and et cetera, if you're the classic definition of burned out, which means you're trying and trying, but the results have just stopped, then it's time to contact Zino and his team at TyrAds, that is TYRAds.com. And they know this stuff, and they know all the latest cutting edge nooks and crannies and strategies to try. And they might have even worked on an app similar to yours or has an audience similar to yours. So it's time to break past those limits. If you're so tired of just settling for hundreds of thousands of users and you want to get into the millions, then you're on exactly the right podcast for you. And it is time right now to go to tyrads.com. There's a phone number there. There's an email address there. There's a chat button where you can schedule a meeting with Zino and his team. At least have the conversation, right? At least find out what your options are and what Zino's company can do for you as far as getting the number of users using your app that you need to. And they can give you all kinds of new places to advertise and all kinds of new techniques. So the place to go right now is tyrads.com to grow your user reach of your app to what you know it can be, and even beyond that. So as we wrap up our conversation, conversation here, Zino, do you have any final parting words of advice, any little bit that you want to squeeze into the end of our conversation?
Yeah, so last final advice, get ready for a world where device IDs and personal identifier information is going to be increasingly more difficult to get and to target, and be ready for this. Now is your chance to prepare and be properly prepared for it in the coming 2 years. And if you do so, you're going to have a leg up on everybody else that has not been prepared. Don't be the one that didn't see the IDFA depreciation coming, and the same thing is happening on Google Advertiser ID and cookies and all those areas. So make sure you're prepared. And I always mention one thing: be proper preparation prevents poor performance. So make sure you're properly prepared.
I love it. Zino from TyrAds.com. We will see you there. And thank you, Zino, for stopping by.
Awesome, Robert. Thank you very much for having me.